Kha'zix is one of the most popular and fun junglers in the entire game. He excels at destroying isolated targets and has a famous rivalry with another assassin, Rengar. So I thought it would be fun to try out those two assassins back to back and see which one I like better, with this video, obviously focusing on Kha'zix. And spoiler alert, I ended up liking Kha'zix a lot. So for the next 10 hours, I'm going to try to learn Kha'zix in 3 steps. First, normal games, second, do some research, and third, play some ranked games. I'm doing this because I'm trying to learn every champion, so one day I can make the greatest Viego video ever. So what runes and build should you go on Kha'zix? Well, the most common rune is Dark Harvest for a mix of burst and scaling, but Conquer is also good if you are against a tankier team where bursting people down might not be an option. For your build, you mainly want to go Lethality Assassin, where you build items like Hubris, Yomu's Ghostblade, Opportunity, Edge of Night, Sherelda's Grudge, and Death's Dance for a little bit of survivability. You can also build Eclipse as your first item for more survivability, which I liked a lot, but I will talk about that more at the end of the video. And the second build is more of a bruiser build, where you go Spear of Shojin, Sundered Sky, Black Cleaver, Death's Dance, Spirit Visage, and Steric's Gate. Obviously, this build has less burst damage, but it has way more cooldown reduction, your survivability is surprisingly high, and this synergizes great with the Conqueror rune. Last up, Kha'zix is unique because his abilities have evolutions. You can evolve any abilities that you want, but there are 3 oversimplified rules that you can follow. 1. The most standard evolutions are going to be Q, then W, and then E or ult, whichever you prefer. This gives you the most amount of burst and utility in the mid game while still being flexible in the late game. 2. If you're ahead early and want to accelerate the game, evolve Q, then ult, and then W or E. Your ult evolution gives you a lot of extra power in mid-game fights because of the damage and extra mobility. And 3, if the enemy team is super tanky or you fall really far behind, evolve W, then ult, then E to maximize your utility and just try to play for your team. And with that, onto some normal games. But before that, really quick, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Their goal is to help people learn how to do back-end coding in a fun, gamified way with quests, with rewards, daily login bonuses, and you can do this by learning a bunch of different coding languages like Python, Go, JavaScript, and obviously a bunch of other ones. And their newest feature, the Training Grounds, allows you to test your skills in a nearly endless amount of possibilities. You press the training button here. Obviously, I already did one, so we can see which one I did. And it was planning a travel budget, which is actually really funny timing because I'm going on my honeymoon while this video is coming out, and I should probably come up with a travel budget for that too. But anyway, if you ever have an issue with any of these training segments or courses, there are links in the program that'll take you to a site that will explain everything that you need to know. And if you don't want to read all of this because it's a bit intimidating, the training usually uses stuff that you've already done in the past. For example, F-strings, which is something that I have done in the past. I can go to that lesson, F-strings in Python, and just relearn whatever it is I did in that lesson. So yeah, if this is something that interests you because you want to just learn coding, or you want to do back-end coding as a potential career option, feel free to use the link in the description and code ECORELOL, or the QR code on the screen somewhere to download and get 25% off your first purchase. The start of my Kha'zix journey was actually super fun. I was honestly surprised at how much damage this guy could do even just at the start of the game. His ganks with invisibility, slows, and burst made ganking so easy the champion basically played itself. His 1v1 potential was off the charts. Even after misplaying this fight and getting hit by every ability, I was still able to kill this Lilia 1v1. But even though some things were going very well, I was also starting to understand some of Kha'zix's weaknesses. For example, without isolation, I did no damage. I was actually shocked at how I didn't kill this Annie from low HP because I just didn't understand Kha'zix's damage yet. Oh, I don't know my damage yet, it's so cringe. As an assassin, you are super vulnerable to crowd control. I thought with Edge of Night and my invisibilities I'd be safe, but not if I play like this. Not to mention not fully grasping how important target selection is. Like, even though Rammus was low here, he's still a tank, so I didn't kill him, I didn't get a reset, and I probably should have just gone for Annie first. And let's just say having an incredible early game made me a little bit overconfident in my first game. So after a disappointing end to my first game, I had my first Kha'zix versus Rengar matchup. The only problem, I sucked at Kha'zix. Like here, I used my E way too early, used my Q on the freaking Scuttle Crab, and died. No, I should have, After getting rolled by a much more experienced Rengar player, I could feel the frustration start to bubble up. Wow. My frustration only grew as I continued to play poorly. Sure, I did get the kill here, but my ult and E usage were terrible, and it almost allowed Yasuo to get away somehow. Despite his simple kit for an assassin, I felt overwhelmed and would use all of my abilities to burst people down, instead of actually thinking about how I should use my abilities in the first place. Then I would overcompensate, hold on to my abilities way too long, and make fights incredibly close instead of just ulting earlier. Like, why the heck would I flash here instead of just ulting? And just when I thought I couldn't get stressed enough, this happened.
Holy shit, the hunt is in fact on, ladies and gentlemen.
Moments later, I found myself being hunted by the very player that had already killed me so many times this game. My ult only had 1 charge left. I was on half HP, but luckily I juked him with my invisibility. I ran to my teammate. He had fallen into my trap. We had him! It was an ambush. All I could do was run and hope for the best now.
Yes! Did we get it? Holy shit, this Renekton's the GOAT.
With my extra evolution and my confidence restored, I wasn't scared anymore. And everything came full circle when the Rengar tried to kill me one last time. Wow! Ultimately, he stood no chance against me at the end of the game. Despite that hype game though, my inexperience on Kha'zix and assassins as a whole was definitely starting to cause a problem. I was getting better at learning my damage, but something just wasn't feeling right. Even though my scores were pretty and I was getting as many objectives as I could, I just wasn't winning games. So I thought maybe my build was the problem, and I decided to try the bruiser Kha'zix build I found online because it looked interesting. Or maybe the build wasn't the problem.
Oh no.
To be fair though, this build did have some pretty sick moments, like this 1v2 where I almost got out alive and got a kill.
That flash was horrible, but you know what? We got a kill, 1v2.
But I knew that just building a bunch of new items wasn't gonna save me. I had to take accountability for my actions and learn from my mistakes. Luckily for me, I had a lot of mistakes to learn from. First, I wasn't playing like an assassin. This bruiser build did cover up some of my mistakes from the previous games, but the core problems were still there. Second, I was using my abilities way too fast. Just because I want to burst them down doesn't mean I need to use all of my abilities for every single kill. Third, there were also times where I would play fights extremely sloppy and put myself in terrible situations. Like assuming I'd kill this Vi here, not killing her, and then having to flash away with 50 HP. Fourth, and of course, thinking I could outplay any situation with my mobility and invisibility. Yes, I do have outplay potential, but I'm also a squishy assassin who should never fight head-on, ever. I actually thought I was going to win this fight, but if I fix these mistakes, maybe I could start winning a few more games. Once I took a look within myself and realized all my mistakes, I started playing Kha'zix to his absolute limit.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
I was playing more like an assassin, flanking the enemy and cutting off their escape and picking up free kills. My only issue now was I wasn't building like an assassin, because for some reason, I was just so fascinated by this bruiser Kha'zix build. I even forgot to record a game of bruiser Kha'zix, and it was probably my best normal game yet. But eventually, my curiosity was outweighed by the fact that assassin Kha'zix was just a lot more fun. I missed being able to eviscerate someone with a single Q, even if I did have a little bit more utility with this build. The feeling of watching an enemy's health bar explode was way better than, watching them almost get away because I did too little damage. After these games, I realized I gotta go back to assassin Kha'zix. So I did some research on YouTube, and here's what I found. 1. If you do build Profane Hydra, you should use the active ability early to clear nearby minions and make your Q isolated. It won't always work, but it can help in certain situations. 2. Don't immediately attack after using your ult. You want to play fight slower and make the most out of your invisibility. This is a tip that I learned during my Vayne video, but the idea is pretty much the same. Your invisibility gives you a bunch of survivability in fights, which is very important on an assassin like Kha'zix. 3. Like most assassins, Kha'zix wants to snowball early, which means 2 things. 1. You want to play fast and start as many small fights in the early game as possible. This way, you can get the most out of your isolation, get a bunch of gold, and snowball. 4. Use bushes in your ult to make the most out of your passive. Basically, every time you're out of vision, your next auto attack will do a ton of bonus damage and give you a slow. It seems simple, but it increases your damage way more than you think, and a 2-second slow is very important for chasing down squishy targets. Teamfights are hard for Kha'zix because of his isolation mechanic, however, there are a few ways to make this up. You can play fights front to back by spamming your W and setting up kills for your team, and then once your team kills the front line, then you jump on the back line. Or you can play fights from the shadows and wait for the enemy carry to misposition. This is the more rewarding playstyle, but there is a small window here, and if you mess it up, you could just end up dying, so limit test a bit. And 6. Because of Kha'Zix's evolutions, he's one of the most flexible champions in the game. You can go different items, different evolutions, or even different playstyles to match whatever game you're in, so just try some things out. And with that, onto some ranked games. After all the information I learned and all the mistakes I learned from, my Kha'Zix gameplay took a massive leap to the next level. Get it? Because Kha'Zix's E is called leap? Alright, that's fair. Anyway, suddenly I felt unstoppable. It's like I could taste their fear as soon as I appeared on screen. Get it? Because his Q is called... Okay, never mind, I'll stop. Getting kills had become nearly effortless as I learned Kha'Zix's limits and his range. And I just started winning, and winning, and winning. I was doing things I had never even considered before, like starting my invisibility from a bush to give the enemy as little time to react as possible. And I can't emphasize enough how broken this little trick is. I mean, look how much ground I cover here while invisible to kill this edge. I was also playing more aggressively and confidently than I had in my previous games, and was even making plays in the enemy jungle, pushing the limits of what I thought was even possible. My movement and ability usage had come so far since the start of this challenge. This improved movement and understanding led to some of my lowest death games of the whole challenge, which led to me getting ahead pretty much every single game. And after playing so much Kha'Zix, I unlocked my new special move, the ambush bush. Basically, you just sit in a bush and obliterate whoever comes near you. I was completely hooked on Kha'Zix's gameplay, and I think it showed in my performance. It was one of those moments where the stars align and somehow you're just playing completely on instinct. You don't need to think, you just know where to go and what to do. It's like in sports, when a coach tells you to be the ball so you can make the shot, or make the perfect pass, or hit the perfect hit. I just decided to be the Kha'Zix in this situation. Sadly, the main issue with this style of play is once you're thrown off your rhythm, once you lose a little bit of your confidence, everything starts to crumble. All of a sudden, my early games stopped going as smoothly. Fights I was winning earlier, I was now losing and couldn't figure out what was going on. I had definitely still improved on Kha'Zix, so it wasn't like I was playing terribly or anything, but as quickly as I started winning games, I just started losing them. I just wasn't trusting my damage anymore, which caused me to overcommit for this pike kill, gave Master Yi the opportunity to Q me, and when I took Thresh's lantern, I brought Master Yi over, who killed all my teammates. I literally went from making these great plays that won us the game to panicking and literally being the reason we lost. My early games just continued to be sloppy too. Oh no. I'm dead. And the stress of being a jungler kicked in. I still wasn't playing bad and played this fight slow like an assassin should, but the weight of the entire game felt like it was on me. I started trying to make these plays to accelerate the game, which would completely backfire and once again lose my team the game. I don't know how many of you play jungle, but let's see if this is relatable. I'm doing okay around the map. My score is 3-2-2, and even though I camped my bot lane early, they're somehow losing. So, next thing I know, the enemy team has 3 dragons, I'm getting spam pinged, and I'm forced to make plays to try and stop the enemy from getting Dragon Soul, which they just get anyway. Even as I did well, I just felt like I was in a slump. Some sort of mental block was holding me back. So I made the decision to change builds after this game one final time. Change to one of my favorite items, Eclipse, for more survivability and damage, because I was not enjoying the lethality build nearly as much anymore.
Look at that Q damage, baby! Isolated Q with 2 lethality items literally did nothing.
I'm sure the build wasn't the whole problem, but even just looking at my gameplay, I was clearly anxious, using my E way too early again, which actually allowed Kayn to escape this fight. There needed to just be some way I could mental reset, and the only thing I could think of was changing my build, which worked a few hours ago. And boy, did that work. But before we get into my 30 freaking kill Pentakill clip, let's see how we got here in the first place and if Eclipse actually made a difference. Right off the bat, something about this game felt different. My confidence was back. I went for an early invade and even managed to get an early kill. To this day, I still don't know exactly what was going on, but for some reason, I knew this game was going to be good and I played with absolutely no fear. And the moment I finished Eclipse, I knew why. The shield, the burst damage, the cooldown reduction. This is literally the item I've been looking for this whole time. Just enough survivability and cooldown reduction to remind me of the bruiser build I love so much, with enough raw damage to still be an assassin. And for the first time in a while, I was genuinely excited to play Kha'zix again. But despite being 20-4, the game was neck and neck until I pulled off my first incredible fight. I was almost sure this was going to be my peak when it happened, as I killed 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 enemies. Oh, I'm the best! But that was nothing compared to what happened a few minutes later. The enemy team snuck Baron, the enemy Smolder was starting to scale, so I knew if we didn't win this fight here and now, we were gonna lose. So I locked in.
What the fuck? I killed this too! Where's the Penta?
Oh yeah, I also was the one that killed the Lux at the start of all of this, so it's basically 6 kills. From that game on, I continued to play Eclipse Kha'zix and continued to fall in love with this build. And I know I haven't made my Rengar video yet, but spoiler alert, I liked Kha'zix a lot more. Rengar did feel better at 1v9ing the game sometimes, but Kha'zix was just simpler, more flexible with his build paths, and in my opinion was stronger at almost every stage of the game unless you truly mastered Rengar. I mean, again, I dropped perhaps my first 30 bomb ever playing Kha'zix, got a Pentakill, and had an absolute blast the entire time. So Kha'zix can definitely still 1v9 if he needs to. The main downside of this whole challenge though is after the massive high of arguably my best game ever, the rest of the games did not go nearly as well. And I've tried to take accountability in my games when learning these new champions, sometimes to a fault, like during my Vayne video if you watch that. But sometimes games are just doomed, and honestly I think I play better on Kha'zix than almost any other challenge. The levels of consistency, damage, and confidence I gained playing this champion were things I'd never seen before. Like in this game, despite the score being 25-39, I was somehow 12-3, I had gotten Dragon Soul, and only lost because the enemy made a great play in the jungle to catch me out. I genuinely got so good at Kha'zix. Look at the scores of these last several games. I was the best or second best player in every single game. Did I still have a lot to learn about Kha'zix's damage, limitations, and playstyle? Absolutely. I was just scratching the surface of what this champion can do. But I'm not gonna let this losing streak at the end overshadow all the improvements that I made. Playing fights more patiently, being more comfortable on this thrilling assassin. Yeah, Diana said team diff at the end, and the face I made looked like the face of a defeated man, but don't let it fool you. Despite the loss, I knew I had played well, and I had come so far over the course of this challenge.
Oh yeah, and if you're interested in Boot.dev, use the link in the description with code ECORLOL or the QR code somewhere on the screen to download today for 25% off.
Oh yeah, I stream most days on Twitch and YouTube, so feel free to drop a follow or like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me a ton.